Dark Knight Rises was a great movie. It really was. What it had to do, I tip my cap to Christopher Nolan and the design team and the writers. It was a monumental task in ending Batman's story arc. Before we go any further, if you have not seen this movie, stop watching. After I just say this, it's a great movie, but it's disappointing. I will give you a few more seconds to back out of this film, of this review, because I'm probably going into deep hardcore spoilers almost instantaneously. Alright, so if you've remained, you're well aware that I'm going to spoil the shit out of this movie. Go into a little bit of backstory. There's Nolan's main inspiration for the 3 Batman movies has been Dark Knight Returns, which is a very dangerous comic for me to read. But this one, it's definitely the Nightfall, because Bane's in there, and it's No Man's Land, which is basically the story arc where Gotham is hit by a really massive earthquake, and it's ignored by the government. And that's more of a story about what goes on in Gotham while the government ignores said problem with Gotham. And at this point, the Dent Act has been passed. Gotham is pretty much clean. Batman's work is done. But the flip side to that is he is now a Howard Hughes recluse who can barely walk because of all the injuries he sustained as being Batman, which I found awesome and realistic. Because let's be real here, if there was a crime-fighting vigilante out there, at some point in time, shit's going to catch up to you quick. Not saying it's the same thing, but, and it's tragic, but look what's happening to a lot of NFL football players. Their later years in their life aren't necessarily the best years that they should be, because they've torn their bodies up asunder playing the sport that they love. Batman's sport just happens to be vigilantism. Now, the only thing he can do nowadays is pump money into charities. So Bruce Wayne Enterprises is gone in the shitter. Now we enter Catwoman, who I have to say is a good story. Anne Hathaway is pretty awesome in it. I will freely admit that. I feel really bad because the character isn't needed. We'll get into it a little bit later. Isn't needed at all. We're introduced, obviously, to Bane. We're introduced to Alfred, the regular players. Because Catwoman steals something from Bruce Wayne, Batman comes back. It sets the whole nucleus up of Batman coming back. Alright, and basically, the new character, John Blake, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he discovers who Batman is. Okay, I'll give him that. His character is setting up to have the torch passed to him. That's fine, that's dandy. Nolan and Bale have said this is going to be their last movie together. So if, at any shot, boom, you have him. Through a series of errors and follies, eventually Bruce Wayne meets his villain, Bane. Bane's got one thing and one thing in mind. He wants to ruin everything that Batman's ever done. He knows Batman's Bruce Wayne, obviously. He's associated with the League of Shadows. He escaped from a prison, and his only crime, blah, 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 whatever. They nailed Bane, I think, perfect. And I kind of liked the voice. I know a lot of people don't, but I think of it like this. He is a 300-pound brick shithouse of nothing but muscle, who is as villainous as the Joker, who's more brutal and insanity-based than the Joker. But the Joker does it for the punchline. Bane just does it because he wants to. But it's just so disturbing to seeing that man with the hugest propensity for violence and vile things to have that calm voice talking to you. More than likely as he's doing it to you. The whole thing also bases on Wayne Enterprises' last-ditch effort for renewable energy and it being used as a nuclear bomb. Big shock. Then about halfway through the film, we have the breaking. My problem with this is it happens so late in the game. It happens so late for this movie that the rest of the movie, just about till the end, exit Batman. That's it. Gotham gets isolated through a series of explosions. The police force is literally buried in the underground sewers. They're being kept alive by people who feed them and whatnot. But basically, it's a solid police state. It's a solid anarchist state, totally isolated. And Bane basically said, if anybody tries to fight him or leave the island, he's gonna blow up the fucking nuclear device. I would have wanted to have this happen in the first 25-30 minutes of the film, not over an hour into it. And I say it like this because while that isolation's happening and Batman is healing from being broken, you're getting one of the best stories about Gotham ever. How the what remaining police force wasn't in the sewers are now considered resistance fighters, and they're doing their best to protect the people, and they're doing everything they can to try to find this bomb. And it seems rushed because they have to get to the end. They're madly racing to get to the end. Whereas if you do this in the first 25-30 minutes of the movie, you can have Bruce Wayne's redemption and building himself back up, because apparently a haggard old prisoner has the punching ability to heal you. The implications of Superboy Prime, I want to not say, but let's just say it's almost as bad as when Superboy Prime punched reality. And if you're setting up the new Batman, you're giving me no inclination that this dude, that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is going to be the new Batman, and he's got no training. I don't see anything about it. I just see a guy who's able to sneak around. No fighting skills required. It's Batman. You're a vigilante. You're going to have to get into a tussle, and the few times he does get into a tussle, he gets owned pretty quickly. Modine's character, Deputy Commissioner Peter Foley, is going to ascend the commissioner rank, and the character that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Blake, is playing, he's going to be the new Batman. So you're setting up a new commissioner, new Batman dynamic. You kill Matthew Modine's character for no reason. None whatsoever. Why? Why would you do that? You set it up, and you kind of wrote it off. So there's another character that's useless, because his story arc was non-existent. I did like Alfred leaving, and basically telling Bruce Wayne, you have a death wish. Basically telling Bruce Wayne that you're miserable without being Batman. If you can't be Batman, you're miserable. And the first chance that you could take, you put the costume back on, and you're Batman again. And I'm sorry, bud, you're 39 years old. Bane is going to fucking hurt you a lot. I'm not going to watch you die. I'm not going to watch you die. The bat plane, when that scene happened, when he was flying, I felt bad because my wife liked it, and she was like geeking out, And then I was like, you jumped the shark. Fucking Nolan just, that's what jumping the shark nowadays looks like. I loved what they did with Bruce Wayne. I love what they did with him and Batman. How the whole the whole time leading up to his fight with Bane, the first one, he's cocky, he's arrogant. He's like, yeah, I'm back in the game, baby. I can do this. You know, now Commissioner Gordon's disgraced by people that he respects because he's like, wait a minute, you framed Batman. And he's just like, I did it for the greater good. You don't understand. I wish he said it best to Blake. He's like, I wish if you ever have to make a decision like that you're twice the man that I am. Or to some extent like that. Because he's like, he's like, do you think it was easy making that decision? Harvey Dent tried to kill my whole family. And Batman saved my family. And how did the Batman thank me? By basically saying he killed Harvey Dent. And it's 8 years later, and he's like, I've had to live with that for 8 years. Oh, fuck yourself. Big spoiler. Bruce Wayne lives. Bullshit, though. Because think about it. In today's technological age, at the end of the scene, Alfred is at like a Italian restaurant, and he was like, earlier in the film, he tells Bruce Wayne, he's like, when you were missing all those years, every year I would take a trip to some place in Italy, and I would be at this restaurant every day on this year, and I was just hoping that I would see you with some woman living a nice, quiet life. That's all I ever hoped for you. So at the end of the film, you get that payoff. He's at that quiet Italian restaurant, and he sees Bruce Wayne. Now, the problem with that is, Bruce Wayne at that point in time would be one of the most recognizable figures on the planet. And I'm not just talking like, we're not talking a simple Tupac thing here, folks, conspiracy. We're talking multi-millionaire, lost all of his money due to charities and trying to invent clean energy, free energy, renewable energy. Was a victim of stock manipulation and fraud. Then, during the anarchist state of Gotham, is presumed killed. And he's just sitting out there in public like it's nothing. See these? These are cell phones. Yeah, I know. Interesting concept. My cell phone, I can take a video with it and post it to YouTube immediately. The fact that everything is finished, closed, complete. It's hard to do. And that's why I liked it. That's why I did like this movie. I enjoyed it. It was just very disappointing. It was like good but disappointing. I agree with some people out there, some internet reviewers, that the trailer has done a massive disservice to this movie. People expecting it to be something completely different because of the trailer. What you're going to get is a really great character development story. What you're not going to get is a hardcore action movie. If you want that, a hardcore action comic book movie, Avengers. Awesome. Awesome. Did I say it was awesome? Because it is. 2 big points that I need to bring up that I felt. One of them is damn near impossible for them to address. But I'll go into my theory on what could be done. And the other one is weird. So I'm going to hit the first one up first. The weird one up first. The Narrows has never been mentioned since Batman Begins. If you need a little education lesson on the Narrows, that was the place that Scarecrow unleashed his psycho weapon on and flooded the entire place, and everybody went crazy. And at the end of the movie, you know, everyone's wondering, and it's like it's lost. Forget about it. something very similar to Arkham City could happen with that, where they made part of the city the prison. The Narrows has not been mentioned since. And now the one that's damn near impossible for them to address. The Joker. That is such a loaded question. That is such a loaded item. That me personally, I'm glad that they didn't address it. Because there's no way they could address it. Now, some of my friends after Dark Knight were like, oh, how can, oh man, blah blah, Joker this, blah blah blah, Joker that. There's one link that would be feasible in the reality that Nolan made for the 3 Batman films. That bringing the Joker back in any way, shape, or form would make sense. One of them was Harley Quinn, who started out as Joker's therapist, and Joker manipulated her to the point of her becoming insane and freeing him. That would be the link. Go see it. See it. Embrace, if you can. Embrace the movie that it is, and go into it knowing that it's not a superhero movie, but an ensemble piece. You'll be happier. And that was the Trilogy of Disappointment week. I hope you liked it. I know I did, to an extent. The reviews were great. I probably am going to get some hate for this review, but just bear in mind, I liked this movie. It was just slightly disappointing. I fully blame the trailer, looking back on everything, because I just saw this like a week ago, and I wanted to process. The trailer did more disservice to this movie than anything else. And once again, it's a great movie, awesome time. One of the better, it's the weakest of the 3, but still, it's still better than a lot of other shit out there. Green Lantern, Wolverine Origins. So yeah, this is the middle part of Trilogy of Disappointment week, and or the end of Disappointment week. I don't know. It's been a very disappointing week for me. So this is Dahmer's Cool Stuff, and as always, do good gaming.